We'll get started. Hey, everybody. My name is Rich. I'm with RKAthletics, and today I am joined by Kate Chambers. Kate, how are you doing today?
I'm well, thanks, Rich.
Kate, you just told me your physiotherapy clinic, but I totally forgot the name because I get nervous in front of the camera.
So it's right here. It's called Integral Physiotherapy and Sports Clinic.
And that's in Edmonton, Alberta, located just behind kind of the Grant MacEwan area, correct?
Correct.
Awesome. I've been there before, so I should know this off by heart.
Yeah.
But yeah, so today we're going to be talking about something that affects more people than probably people realize, and that is patellar tendinopathy. So Kate, tell us a little bit about patellar tendinopathy.
Yeah, so patellar tendinopathy, commonly known as runner's or jumper's knee. So that's more of a chronic change in your tendon that attaches your kneecap to your tibia. So it's a really important part of your knee. And essentially what's happening in those cases is it's some chronic kind of micro tearing and some changes to the tendon. So the structure that attaches the muscle to the bone. And through those chronic changes, the tendon gets weaker and it gets irritated, often has some fluid in there. So you might have some thickening, and it's quite painful for people to do things like running, jumping, squatting down, movements like that.
Absolutely. Now, with your experience with the issue, what are some, I guess, at-home remedies that people can do for the patellar tendinopathy?
So the good news is with tendinopathies, a lot of the treatment that we do with physio is exercise based. So a lot of times we're giving you strategies to deal with it. So we always tell people like tendons need to be loaded. It's just that with tendinopathies, they're loaded a little bit too much with the current activities. So a lot of what people can do is a little bit of backing off of those aggravating activities. That doesn't mean necessarily stopping entirely, but just trying to reduce the overall volume of the running or jumping temporarily so that that tendon can recover and so it's not so aggravated. In terms of pain relief, icing, heating, all of those things help to manage that pain, and even using some NSAIDs a little bit too, so some Advil temporarily just to reduce that more acute inflammation. And then steps from there, once we get that pain under control, is to start to load it back up. So that's where they would be coming to the gym, seeing you, Rich, doing some nice, slow, controlled loading. The research really suggests that heavy, slow resistance training is really effective for dealing with these tendinopathies. So yeah, those are kind of the main things that I recommend for people, is kind of backing off on those aggravating activities and starting to try to build the tendon back up.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And yeah, like you said, most times like backing off it for a little bit and then even readjusting like form and correcting kind of technique for a lot of these things can really go a long way in terms of just that recovery cycle. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. And a lot of times like people think that, oh, I'm injured, I have to stop entirely. But there's tons of modifications that we can make that allow people to continue to do things at the gym and continue to strengthen without just really aggravating their tendinopathy. So oftentimes we'll go over different ways to do a squat that are a little bit more tolerable if squatting is really painful for it. Yeah, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like if you can't do a squat without knee pain, there's plenty of other exercises you can do for your lower body to kind of keep that up, right? Especially for runners. I know it can be very frustrating for a lot of runners when they start to have that knee pain and it doesn't really go away. But then they don't really do much for it, right? They don't work on the stabilization side of things. They don't work on some of the corrective movements, and even correcting some of the issues down the kinetic chain as well. So just focusing on the smaller kind of stabilization or even weaker chains in our kinetic chain, essentially, to help with that during our kind of downtime can really help out with just reducing injury and preventing further pain and anguish down the line as well, for lack of better terms.
Absolutely. And I do find with knees in general, working on the hips and the hip stabilizers do often help. They don't necessarily know why. Sometimes there's a mechanical reason. Sometimes it's just it's allowing them to still do something while reducing their pain. But yeah, there's so many things that you can still do. And that's where seeing a physio and seeing a personal trainer can be really beneficial, just to give some guidance for people to know exactly where to enter in with some of those exercises and then how to progress forward.
Absolutely. Now you mentioned the hip a little bit. What about the ankle? Can that play a role into knee tendinopathy? I'm trying to say it the way you say it. Tendinopathy is stuck in my mind.
Tendinopathy, yeah.
Tendinopathy.
Yeah, it can absolutely come into effect too. So I don't see it as often with a patellar tendinopathy, but with kind of those gradual onset knee pain where there wasn't really a mechanism. It was just kind of started happening from running or from going to the gym. Oftentimes the ankle might be restricted. So if you're not getting enough mobility in your ankle, then oftentimes that changes what's happening up the chain in the knee. Also foot control. So if you're not having proper arch control, that can also affect the stability and the tracking of the knee. So that's another thing that we look at too. So hip, ankle, the knee is kind of the middle of the chain. So if there's something happening at the hip or the ankle, oftentimes you don't feel it at the hip or ankle. It meets in the middle and it affects what's happening at the knee. It's kind of your weakest link often.
Awesome. So before I let you go, like, what are some signs that somebody would need to come see you if they're experiencing some knee pain, and it might be potentially this patellar tendinopathy?
Yeah, so a good way to know you have some either a patellar tendinopathy or something similar would be pain through that soft structure just below your kneecap. So if you even push on it, it's painful. If you're getting kind of like this increasing pain either during or after you run or do like a jumping activity like basketball or volleyball, because sometimes with tendinopathies, once the tendon's warm and moving, you don't really feel it. So you might feel okay once you're playing basketball, but then afterwards you're getting this pain. That's another indication that it could be a tendinopathy. And then just in general, some like dysfunction at the knee. So having a difficult time bending it or going down into a squat and having that pain on the front of your knee. That's a good indication that that might be what's going on. And then that's something that we can confirm if you come see a physio.
No, that's awesome. I think that can help a lot of people. I know a lot of people try to play through the pain and then they don't feel the pain initially during the activity, but after the fact, it starts to swell up. You know, once the adrenaline starts to wear off, once that blood flow starts to drop back down, it can be quite debilitating. So thank you so much for joining me here today, Kate. How can people get in touch with you?
So people can get in touch by calling the clinic, or we do have a great website. So if you do need help, if you go onto integral.com, then you should be able to read through and book an appointment easily online as well.
Awesome. And I'll have the link in the description anyways. So
Perfect.
Kate, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Yeah.
Look forward to chatting again. And
Thanks,
thanks so
Rich.
much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, guys.